Morning, everyone. Ready? Salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Okay. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Boland,
Here.
Commissioner Johnson,
Here.
Commissioner Kimmelshoe, Chair Connolly,
Here.
Commissioner McGreehan,
Here.
Commissioner Duncan, Commissioner Betts,
Here.
Alternate Commissioner Rust, Alternate Commissioner Bradley, Alternate Commissioner Reynolds, Alternate Commissioner Ritter. Thank you.
Okay, next up is consent agenda. Would any commissioner like to pull something from the consent agenda? Anyone from the public? No changes, Al? Everything good? I'll entertain a motion on the consent agenda.
I'll move that we.
Second.
I can just say voice. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. I just don't think the roll call should be so necessary, but Al caught me on that one. All right, so first up is 4.2, presentation City of Oroville Municipal Utility Initiative.
Good morning. Thanks for letting me have a moment here. So we formed a public utility last fall, and it was an effort to assist our industrial users with the cost of energy. We were hoping that we could flatten out the cost of energy for the industrial users. And as it turns out, it's a little bit tough because the rates that we would still have to pay PG&E that are aside from the generation costs, just make it cost prohibitive for us to do this and actually perform it at a rate that benefits those industries. So it does still work for greenfield projects. So projects where there has not been PG&E service before, we can still operate this and we can provide it seemingly at a much lower rate is the way it looks like right now. We can provide it at a much lower rate and at a flat rate, which is really attractive for bringing in new businesses. So I can't really discuss the report that was done by New Gen Solutions quite yet because it hasn't been presented to our council and there are still some negotiations that are happening. I can say that this project for annexation is not the businesses that are slated to come that they've been discussing about having come are not heavy tax generating businesses, but they do bring jobs and they bring people in and then which will help turn the economy. If something goes there, any place that goes in the county adjacent to Oroville helps Oroville. We do have a developer that's building homes and we want to be able to fill those homes and we just want to turn the economy locally. But what it does do is if we can't sell power to anyone that's not inside the city. So the public utility can only function inside the city. So by annexing this land, it does provide the landowner and any developer an opportunity or another way to attract people to come and build on their property. So that's the important thing for the city or for us. And that's the way that the public utility ties into that annexation project. So any questions? Okay, all right, thank you.
Pulled off that agenda. Can you explain why?
It's not ready to be discussed publicly yet.
And
We're still in negotiations.
negotiations for what?
Or the developers in negotiation. It's too sensitive for me to talk about publicly.
Too sensitive.
Yes, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that limits our range of questions and some.
Mhm.
Sorry about that.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you for your presentation. Unless the commissioner has any question.
It should be soon that we'll be able to talk about that further. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, no action to be taken. Any public comment on this matter? Close public comment. 4.3, City of Oroville Annexation Study. Commission received the City of Oroville Sphere of Influence Annexation Feasibility Study.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Commissioners. So I did put together a presentation here, just kind of go through. How do I get rid of that? Make it as small as I can. There we go. Okay, so the presentation is just sort of going to summarize what you found in your staff report. Of course. Hello. There we go. Okay, so let's just first we'll start talking just a little bit of background. The City of Oroville City Council authorized a fiscal feasibility study back in June of 2025. The consultant selected was RSG. They prepared the study, which was finalized in March of 2026. The study forecasts the general fund effect of annexing 3 areas within the sphere of influence of the City of Oroville, which includes portions of Thermalito, the Rio de Oro specific plan area, and the Lincoln Ophir area. So I apologize that it's small, but you can see there on the map the areas that were studied. The result of the study answers only the question of fiscal feasibility and does not address whether the annexations serve the affected communities or produce logical serviceable boundaries. Essentially, they don't address the other factors for which LAFCo needs to consider for an annexation. And it is not a comprehensive annexation plan that the 2009 and 2024 municipal service reviews for the City of Oroville recommend. So what does the study show? The consultant projected each of the area's revenue costs by applying the city's average per capita revenue and costs to the area's current or projected population. And then it calculated property tax separately from each of those areas using the assessed land value and the city's share under the 1980 property master tax exchange agreement. And the results found that Thermalito, the portions of Thermalito studied, would produce a deficit in year 1 of 590,000, growing to about 790,000 at build out. And that's because this is an established inhabited community. So on day 1, those areas immediately need service, which would essentially be a day 1 cost to the city. Without the reimbursement that they would get through property taxes. Rio de Oro is an undeveloped area that is planned for residential development. So they would see a modest first year surplus of 133,000, but at build out would become a $2 million deficit. And that's just the cost of maintaining an area that's built out with residential development. And then the Lincoln Ophir area, which is south of town that we're talking about, is almost entirely non-residential, and adding this assessed value with little residential population would come out to a year 1 surplus of about 9,000, growing to about $21,000 surplus at year 10. So because of these results, the consult recommended to the city that they proceed with the annexation of the non-residential Lincoln Ophir area first, finding that it would produce a surplus over time. So let's talk about what the study means for this commission and some of the other considerations. So as I mentioned, the fiscal impact of an annexation is one of the deciding factors that LAFCo has to consider. So under Government Code Section 56668, there's a slew of factors we have to consider, including community input, adequacy and future need for services, logical boundary formation. So we've been through this many times, and a projected surplus of an area does not qualify a proposal, and a projected deficit does not disqualify one. So it's not often that the annexation of a fully developed residential area would produce any sort of fiscal surplus to an area. That's just the nature of annexing residential areas. The study does highlight that the city only receives a limited property tax share under the property tax sharing agreement that was adopted in 1980, and that there's just a limited, they're constrained by how much property tax they can receive based on laws and the master tax sharing agreement. Service costs rise with population. So as the areas develop, they will continue to cost more. That's just the nature of residential development. Public safety outweighs, of course, all other expenditures in a residential area. And the study specifically does not assess whether the existing infrastructure meets city standards or the level of infrastructure that would need to be invested into each of these areas. We know specifically that Thermalito has storm drain needs, and so evaluating the cost of storm drain infrastructure into Thermalito is a whole other beast of a study. So it's logical that the study doesn't go that far into that those numbers, but that's still a whole other element that needs to be addressed. And then importantly, the study did not consult with affected special districts. And so when they talk about how it could or would affect the service providers, we don't know. We don't know what the effect of any of these annexations would have on South Feather, Water and Power, Thermalito Irrigation District, or Lake Oroville Public Utility District. They were not consultants, so we just don't know the extent of what any of the annexations would cause for them. So we'll talk about, we'll kind of jump around here a little bit, talk about the history of annexations in Oroville. So the city's boundaries reflect decades of annexation decisions made without a strategy. And we can see that reflected in just the shape of the city of Oroville. What Bill calls it, a moose.
It's a moose standing on a bucket,
Yes.
lucky the squirrel on his back.
Okay, yes.
That's
So
really kind of what it looks like to me. Yeah.
So just going back to 2007, up until then, the city did not have an adopted plan. And so in 2007, the city council authorized a comprehensive strategy pairing resource intensive areas like Thermalito and South Oroville with resource neutral lands. And so by pairing those areas together, there would be some level of neutrality by taking an area of land that would cost the city and pairing it with an area of land that would benefit the city. We would see some sort of neutrality in those annexations. That was adopted, but no formal sequencing of any of those lands were set forth. In 2011, after the passage of LAFCo law changes, SB 244, the city annexed a series of islands. They're named in your staff report, but there was about, 7 island annexations that cleaned up various islands of land that were surrounded by incorporated territory. And then in 2015, the city annexed the Southside neighborhood that added 404 acres, 975 parcels, and 2,700 residents. The Southside annexation was paired with what we call the Lower Wyandotte annexation, which was undeveloped or greenfield land that would offer the city some development potential. So that's kind of where we come back to this pairing of land. So Southside would be a fiscal loss to them, but pairing it with Lower Wyandotte gave them some potential area for development. Then in 2021, this commission approved an annexation for a parcel in Thermalito to annex 2 parcels to support residential development. And you'll recall that at that meeting, we pressured the city to come up with some sort of long-term plan to consider Thermalito in their long-term annexation strategy. So just to focus a little bit on Thermalito, the greater Thermalito area has 7,200 residents. It's largely low-income households and is less developed infrastructure than the incorporated city. It was named a priority area in the 2007 strategy, in the 2009 municipal service review, again in the 2024 municipal service review, and it's been brought up multiple times at this commission, a plan for Thermalito, and nearly 2 decades has gone by and it remains unincorporated with no plan in place. And like it says here, no good faith effort has been attempted. We hear from Thermalito residents that they're not interested in annexation, yet it's never been attempted. We don't know the full scope of what residents feel about annexation. After decades of exclusion, Thermalito's been left with limited services and a fiscal profile that now makes the annexation appear prohibitive, which is a predictable result of the pattern of 2 decades of leaving Thermalito unincorporated. So the takeaway here is that when a community is put into a city sphere of influence, there's a certain expectation from the residents, from the county, and from the city that someday this area would become part of the city's service boundary. Therefore, it doesn't get included in plans for investment by any other entity, by the county or by any other service entity, because it's assumed that it's the city's responsibility. So here we are 25 years later without any sort of investment into Thermalito. And then again, to jump over to disadvantaged community law, Senate Bill 244 by Senator Wolk was signed in 2011 and it took effect in 2012. And it's to encourage the investment of disadvantaged unincorporated communities and to address the barriers that drive regional inequity and infrastructure deficits. So it gives us 3 tools by which we can ensure that these disadvantaged unincorporated communities are included in plans. So number 1, it requires that cities and counties analyze island, fringe, and legacy communities in their general plan. It requires that LAFCos identify and evaluate these ducts in their municipal service review and serve influence determinations. And it gives LAFCO the ability to not approve annexations of more than 10 acres when the annexation area is contiguous to a disadvantaged unincorporated community. And then Butte LAFCO took that a step further by lowering the 10-acre threshold to 1/2 acre. So the hook here is that a annexation area has to be contiguous to a disadvantaged unincorporated community in order for LAFCO to flex this tool in order to make them take the duck. So this is kind of the loophole that we fall into right now, where we know with this Lincoln O for annexation that there are fringe neighborhoods that are considered disadvantaged and unincorporated that are not included in this annexation proposal, but we don't have the tool to make them take it. And then just to clarify, disadvantaged unincorporated community is defined as an inhabited territory with 12 or more registered voters with a median household income below 80% of the statewide figure.
I have to comment. I mean, it's clearly an avoidance of a disadvantaged community, and that's what triggered South Orville's annexation. We literally were going to have a hostile annexation. We were going to hold, the community got together and was going to hold an election to vote themselves into Orville, and then all of a sudden Orville saw the light and annexed South Orville, which I'll point out, they took every bit of commercial years prior. They took even the olive cannery, leaving housing on either side of it. They came over from the railroad to do it. So Orville has a history of avoiding the disadvantaged residents, and it kind of irks me that, you know, the potential to lose the county, my county hat on, the potential to lose any revenue from a commercial property when we're still providing all the services that are basically residents of a community, it irks me. And so the law may not be exactly black and white, but I think there's some sort of leeway there. Maybe we could look into legal action at LAFCo to look at, see if an avoidance should be brought to the courts or something like that. But go ahead.
Well, so what I am recommending is based on the clear preference and pattern that this commission has established through the adoption of the 2009 Municipal Service Review, the 2024 Municipal Service Review, the multiple conversations we've had over time about Thermalito and these South Side or South Oroville neighborhoods. So what we're missing is the tool to enforce the annexations. So what I'm recommending today is that this commission give me direction to amend the City of Orville's Sphere of Influence plan and adopt sphere of influence policies that set an order in which the territory would come forward for annexation. The policy would be consistent with their past annexation plan of identifying priority areas, which would include fiscal losers, essentially, disadvantaged unincorporated communities and these fringe areas of South Oroville and Thermalito, and pairing them with what we would call other areas, which are vacant, underdeveloped, or undeveloped revenue generating territory. So we could set a sequencing pattern in their sphere of influence plan that says, if you're going to pursue the annexation of the other area, you must also pair it with these priority areas. So it would only, we could go as broad or as narrow as we want with that, but it would essentially give us the tool because, as you know, sphere of influence plans are owned by LAFCo. We are the only ones who can make the decisions on our sphere of influence plans. And so it would be a tool that this commission would use and would be its own policy. So its own policy that we could move forward with as these annexations come forward. So in the staff report is a recommendation, including giving me direction to work with legal counsel, to work with the City of Orville, to essentially open up the sphere of influence plan for the city to identify these areas, come back to this commission with that amended policy for your consideration and eventual adoption.
So basically, under law, a sphere of influence is supposed to be a 20-year development plan. And
Yes.
obviously, the sphere of influence of Orville is huge, and that creates a lot of problems. Maybe we ought to explore shrinking it to what's more reasonable.
I agree. I totally agree.
And then the other comment I have about all this is maybe there's a phase-in effect like we did in Chico. So the shock of the annexation of all our islands, maybe we could discuss some sort of, you know, if you're going to get the I mean, I'm trying to be fair here, but you're going to get the benefit of all the commercial, then you got to phase in. You can't leave people behind. And I mean, I strongly believe in this. I grew up in South Wareville. It was avoided for, you know, decades. And I see this, I just don't want this to, and my comments on Thermalito is, yeah, you probably can't get all of Thermalito. I understand that, but the flag annexation was a terrible thing. And maybe this proposal in the corridor makes total sense to me as a commissioner and as a local resident that bringing in, you know, down 162 or a dam, it makes sense, you know. But those are my comments. And any other comments from up here? I'm sorry, I'm passionate about this. I live here. Sorry.
I agree that the leapfrog type thing is, you know, they need to if they're gonna take the good, then, they need to be respectful. I agree.
Any other comments by commissioners?
Yeah, Shannon, I like the direction we're taking. I'm happy with that. Have you looked into if any other LAFCos have adopted any policies similar to what we're trying to do today? Or-
No, but I definitely could.
I have no idea if
Mm-hmm,
anyone has, but it'd be nice to see.
sure.
I also have a question.
Turn your mic on.
You might.
There you go.
Oh.
You're on.
If perhaps the commission agrees with your recommendation, and you get underway with that type of a study, I would expect that you also take a hard look at existing tools of record that are woefully out of date,
Mm-hmm,
such as the 1980 adopted tax master exchange master plan, those types of tools, because things have changed dramatically in the last 20, almost 40 years, quite frankly. And at the same time, while doing that study, look at potential incentives that could be part and parcel of a what I would call a priority annexation relative to the sphere of influence. Incentives of various types. I can't express them right now, but I think it's worth looking at.
yeah.
The incentives could be cooperatively ventured by both this city and the county, perhaps.
Very smart guy.
I agree with Al. I think what you're saying is right on. There needs to be something changed in that whole thing. Cause I know in Paradise, everybody pushes Magalia on us. It'd be great to just take Skyway, the corridor, and take the commercial part of it, but that's not right.
Yes.
So, but the whole thing is there's no advantage for us to take it and to do it. I mean, it's so prohibitive because of the stages you got to go into of the taxes you get. It makes there's no sense in it. So I think we've got to find some way to make it advantageous.
Yes.
And hopefully the people want it. Hopefully they want to be a part of, we don't want to force something they don't want, but.
That's a city's perspective. Any other perspective?
Mhm.
Okay, we'll open public comment on this matter. Anyone from the public like to speak?
The city of Oroville prepared a PowerPoint presentation. Is it okay?
Yes. Good morning.
Morning. Thank you. My name is Wes Irvin. I'm the city planner here in Oroville. And I would like to take issue with the moose. It is not. It's a horse in a tuxedo with a mouse on its back.
It's changed. Maybe that's right. I like that. Hey, we look at blotters our way.
So we do have a number of comments about the staff report, which I'd like to go through sort of in sequence. But to answer your question, Commissioner McGrean, about pulling the item from the Planning Commission the other night, that was a pre-zone step that has to occur before any annexation moves forward. And we had pulled it because it wasn't ready for prime time yet. We still needed to address some input that Shannon had about it, et cetera. So it would come later as a pre-zoning before any application for annexation. We do have a request. And I understand that there's a recommendation to take action. We ask that you take no action today. You can, of course, ask LAFCo to update the sphere of influence. We think that's a fine idea. The last one was done in 2011. It's time that that's done again. And so we'd be pleased to work with LAFCo on that. But in the meantime, my read of the staff report is that there would be no annexations until that's done. And we hope that that is not an action that this board takes. And I'll explain why the Lincoln Ophir annexation, we believe, should move forward, albeit slowly, take another 6 months to a year before it actually comes to this board. And then talk about some of the items that are there in the staff report. So there is a statement there that says the growth without a plan. This is what my interpretation of the contents is. So I think it's probably pretty close. That repeated annexations have included the poor neighborhoods. To amend the sphere, we talked about that. And then annex ducts concurrent in advance of or with commercial and undeveloped lands. So, and number 5 is just a reminder of what this commission, which is also in the staff report, has to consider before they make any annexation decisions. Set it here.
Uh-oh, technology.
I probably
There
turned
you
it
go.
off. Okay, so the first items on this were growth without a plan and repeated annexations that include poor neighborhoods. We think that's too harsh a statement, and I'll explain as we go here. Next. So the past annexations have appeared random, but they are not actually random. The staff report talks about several annexations and current strategies. Yes, we had a strategy citywide and a sphere update plan in 2011. We have a 2008 strategy citywide. None of these have been really formalized since 2007. In 2021, I'll talk about this a little bit more. We worked really hard to try and figure out how to annex Thermalito. And then in 2025, the citywide annexation strategy with the 6 areas that we presented to the Board of Supervisors back in October. So past annexations, 2007 took less than originally was planned there. And I have a couple of maps. The staff report does not have a lot of maps, and I think maps are quite illustrative here. So 2011, we did do a residential annexation, and that included the area of Southside that included Elgin and Florence and Greenville west of Lincoln, immediately north of the olive processing plant that's been mentioned. So we did take in probably the worst of the worst there. Well, almost the worst of the worst. In 2015, the Southside and Wyandotte, that's been talked about. In 2020, South Lincoln, a very small annexation. We did that to allow the rescue mission to expand. We ended up giving them significant grant and other kinds of assistance, and now they have their expansion and their homeless shelter there. In 2020, also Ruddy Creek, which was a revived annexation plan that had been almost completed back in 2028, I believe. And then that got truncated when the recession hit and a number of other things happened. So these are a history of our annexations. Next. So our strategy in 2007 does acknowledge ducks. It talks about phased annexation of resource intensive areas, which is a pseudonym for ducks, I think. And then I put the star by each of these areas will be annexed in combination with proportional non-resource intensive area to minimize fiscal impact. And that's actually proving to be a hard thing to do in Oroville. Next slide.
Yeah, it would be.
So this is our 2007 annexation area, and it's hard to see, and I don't have a pointer, but it does include South Oroville, quite a lot of it, and it also includes Thermalito. Those are the primary areas there for annexation. What actually happened a little bit later is the next slide. The 2 cross-hatched areas, part of Thermalito there and part of the sight and glance, the land, the old Louisiana Pacific Mill. Those were approved for annexation. They did not complete. I don't know why, but also at the very top, there's a small area of Garden Drive up there at Highway 70 that was completed. Right now, the development there is a mini storage. So we were considering Thermalito, and at that time and all time since, considering annexing Thermalito. Next slide. This is our 2008 annexation status, and I do apologize. This is a very hard slide to read. The colors washed out. It's a very old slide. But the two that I mentioned in 2027, the three yellow annexation areas, and a bunch of future areas. And as you can see, or as I have to explain to you, South Oroville was still a study area that was still actively being considered. Next slide. This is what we actually annexed in 2015. It may not be exact. I think there's a tiny little spike at the bottom there on the right that we probably annexed the request of some landowner, a single parcel, two parcels. But that is what we annexed. 3,300 residents now, maybe 2,700 back then. And 70% of our public safety calls are in this area here, the pink area primarily. Next slide. So it has been stated that we haven't made a good faith effort to annex Thermalito since. And in fact, when Tom Lando was the acting city manager, we did hold a community event here in this room. And we took a stab at what people might think about being annexed in Thermalito. And this was not the map that we presented. We presented a sort of a whole map of the Thermalito area. Here are 238 signed letters opposing annexation that were a result of that 2020 foray. So yes, we agree that it would be fruitless to try and annex any big chunk of Thermalito just because of the likelihood of protest. This map we did in 2021, and we tried to break Thermalito up into 7 different areas based on some slightly different demographic data to see where we could actually make possible annexations there. We are very, very aware of the interest in eliminating that flag that goes out to the airport. And at this point, we don't know how we can do it. The latest thinking is that maybe we can take 1 parcel deep all along West Oro Dam Boulevard. The advantage to us is that most of the commercial in Thermalito is along that strip. So that, may or may not be protested. It may or may not be probably pretty neutral in terms of its fiscal impact. Next slide. These are the 6 annexation areas we presented in 2025. You can see Thermalito's in there. On the far left is Wilbur Road and Par 4 Way. That was previously planned for annexation. Oro Bay specific plan with 2,700 homes was out there, and there's an EIR and there's a development agreement and a whole bunch of things. So that's not new. Then down south, Rio de Oro there, that long leg, that's not new either. The annexation to the lower right, that is the Lincoln Ophir annexation area. That is new, and that's based on what Pat had mentioned earlier about the advantages of providing less expensive power to new development in that area. A lot of that's vacant. The upper right is called Long Bar. That actually is in some of our earlier maps as well, so that's not new. But that was in there at the request of an owner of the property. And then that little hat going up to the left is on North Table Mountain, and that is based on discussions we've had, which we haven't had for a while, about the Hmong community, their proposed international temple and development there. So those are, you know, they're not random, but they are based on information that we had at the time. Next slide. So the staff report recommends amending Orville's sphere of influence and set a sequence for annexation. We absolutely agree with that, and we would like to engage in that process. And Supervisor or Commissioner Connolly, I do like your suggestions there about some of the things to add to it. And perhaps we do need to revisit the revenue tax sharing agreement. I don't know, but that would all be part of that. Our last full sphere of influence plan was 2011. It's time to update it now, and we're fine with that. We're happy to do that. I don't expect it would change very much from what it was before, because there hasn't been a whole lot of rapid development around here. So next slide. Our sphere of influence current one is in green, and it was significantly expanded in 2011 from the red. Part of Palermo there has been cut off, but it was expanded out west a bit. We would, if the sphere were changed, like to annex the entire Wilbur Road area there all the way out to the, or included in the sphere, all the way out to the After Bay. And we're less interested in Kelly Ridge in that area as much. And I'm speaking for myself. This does not have any council input or planning commission input at this time. So we would begin revising the green. Next slide. So I don't want to say admonition, but a reality check on a sphere of influence and sequencing annexations. It must be flexible. There must be flexibility built into it. Priorities change. We had 2,500 homes and 12 subdivisions approved in the time frame between 2005 and 2008, and then the recession hit, and we're now catching up on building some of them, including the Ruddy Creek and some of the other subdivisions. So we're probably in the 200 to 400 home range, recovering from that recession. Ownership changes. We have had many areas, industrial, commercial, residential land, change hands. And when somebody buys it, they have intention of developing it typically. And so we have to react to that when the times change. We have had many annexations requests over the years, many of them around the fringes of the city limits. And we've only responded to the Ruddy Creek one and maybe one or two others. And we're unable to accommodate a bunch of others just because of LAFCo policies and Orville policies and fiscal realities and all of those things. Thermalito, I already mentioned that we were very reluctant to spend a lot of money to try and annex there, but we would like to work with you on maybe finding a way. Still adjusting to the South Oroville annexation. I mentioned 70% of our public safety costs are there. That's 17% of our population. I think that's the number. So it's way out of balance. So we're still adjusting to that. The latest is that we have an engineering study underway, grant funded, to cost out getting sidewalks and streetlights and drainage there. With the recession, with COVID, and just with the realities of a small 20,000 population city, it's very hard to find the resources to do that. So 11 years into this annexation, we're finally at least doing the engineering work to get streetlights and some of the public safety things that the citizens have desired down there. Lastly, well, not lastly, but why annex more low-income areas? This is not a high priority for the city of Oroville. You've probably heard our council people say time and time again, we need market rate housing. We are awash in low-income housing. The RENA numbers say that we need 177 new low-income units by 2030. We already have 800 that have been built since 2022, the same time frame as when those RENA numbers came out. That's a function of the state tax incentives to build low-income housing. We also know that Chico's built something like 1,000 of them. And I don't know what's happened in Paradise and other areas. Next slide. Annex ducts, concurrent or advance of commercial undeveloped lands. That would be something that we would factor into the sphere update. And there's another statement in that staff report about taking Thermalito and Southside remnants forward. Those are not particularly high priorities for us, but we'll certainly consider it. We have been considering it all along, as late as 2021, and even I had a discussion with our city administrator about a month ago, and he wants a new map that may, in fact, is on my desk, which basically goes one parcel deep across Highway 162 there, that we may take a look at again soon. Next slide. Ducks. Ducks in a row. I've got to make that joke somewhere. This is the 2015 general plan list of disadvantaged urban communities. The red stars, that's Thermalito and South Oroville. The green star is the proposed, not under study, Lincoln Ophir annexation area. That area is adjacent to duct number 8, and that's circa our 2015 general plan. We have been informed by LAFCo that we do not at this point need to include duct number 8 in our annexation plan. We actually were preparing a letter to the residents in that area that we did not send out. So we won't send out now that we don't have to include any duck lands in there. That's the only duck that's adjacent to the Lincoln Ophir. Next slide. So what is a duck? A duck is defined, as Shannon said, as a census block, I think, that is less than 80% of the median household income of the state of California. This is the opportunity zone map, and the Board of Supervisors has dealt with this just a week ago. These are the census tracts that have a median household income of less than 70% of the state average. So there's a lot of land in there. And it doesn't go down into the detail about how many the block groups, it's census tracts. It doesn't go into the block groups and how many residences are in the block groups. But it just gives us a general impression about how much low income housing and residential there is in the Oroville area. Next slide. This is from our 2023 housing element. This shows the light blue is median household income less than $30,000, which seems a little bit low to me. I'm not even sure it's realistic, but that's the data that was in our housing element. The regular blue is less than $55,000, and the dark blue is less than $87,000, which was at that time the state median household income. So Defining a duck as part of this sphere exercise is going to be a very critical exercise. To my way of thinking, everything's a duck now. So we have to figure that out. And I think you've started to work with your legal counsel on how to actually define that. Next slide. I'll talk really briefly about the Lincoln Ophir, calling it a study area because the boundaries are fluid. This is the annexation that is pretty much the topic of our item here. The original thoughts were presented in October, as I mentioned. The fiscal study was done, and the planning commissioners and the owners have provided input. So the boundaries are still morphing. We have had some requests. We've sent letters out and had a couple of workshops. There are some owners in that original area that would like to be excluded, not be annexed. They've been very clear about that, and there's some interested owners as well. So we've adjusted the boundaries a bit. This is a little out of place, but we do have a general plan policy that ensures that land use development and annexation decisions do not result in negative fiscal impacts to the city. So we do have to try and do equal or positive annexations as much as possible. Next slide. The revenues, Shannon's already gone over this. Next slide. This was our original boundary for that we presented to the Board of Supervisors in October. It takes in the industrial land north of Ophir and the commercial land west of Lincoln there. After some discussion and some other input, next slide, our fiscal study assessed this area, which goes down in that point at the bottom is the old Setzer forest product.
You wouldn't have any protests at the cemetery.
We didn't want to include the cemetery. I suppose we could. That would give an advantage to abutting Virginia Avenue. So that's what was studied fiscally. Next slide. This is our current thinking, which has not been presented anywhere to a planning commission. Was going to be presented to the planning commission, but it hasn't been, or the city council. It's still fluid. The curve on the right is the old rail line that the city owns west of Lincoln, so that we're planning on cutting out the two mini storages and the parcels along Lincoln. They opposed annexation, and then there was some opposition from one or two of the homeowners down in the lower right corner along Kusel Road there. So that's our current thinking. Almost all of it is industrial. In fact, it is all industrial. It's all industrial in the Butte County General Plan. It was all industrial in our 1995 General Plan. The area north of Ophir there, we did rezone it in 2029 to residential. So it is now medium density housing in our general plan. And so we do need to go through a CEQA evaluation. We can't just accept it without environmental assessment on the general plan amendment that we would have to go through. And that's part of the pre-zoning exercise that we've truncated. This area is known to have a Louisiana Pacific sawdust waste area. In fact, that whole area north of Ophir there, all those parcels, I wish I had a pointer, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parcels north of Ophir were Louisiana Pacific's dump for sawdust. And the current owner is now working under the auspices of the Regional Water Quality Control Board to get rid of that sawdust. It's going to be several years before they get rid of it all. It's tons and tons and tons. It covers the whole area. And they have actually cleared the about 4 parcels at the lower end there. So that's the situation there. We are starting to figure out which CEQA document is going to be needed in order to complete the pre-zone and the future annexation. We also recognize that the MSR that's currently adopted says very little, if anything, about this area. It's all focused on Thermalito. So in our environmental document, we're hoping to do whatever we need to do to strengthen the MSR information that can go into the MSR so that this can also proceed properly and satisfy you folks. So I think the next slide. I just went over that. Next slide. So we've kind of talked about all of these things. What's a duck? Sphere update, prioritizing annexations, hopefully remaining flexible for exigencies and economic factors and changes in ownership, et cetera, et cetera. Next slide. Our ask again is to take no action today other than you can direct staff to update the sphere with the city of Oroville, but do not stop in the meantime the process of moving forward with the Lincoln Over study. So thank you very much. Open for questions.
You and I should have a meeting.
I have enough, and
I
I know
can
enough.
explain to you how most of everything that was annexed, why.
I've not been here since before 2019, and you know where all the skeletons are.
I do.
Yeah.
So that's not, it doesn't matter. It's not going to change anything, but I do have to make a comment. The proposed annexation takes at least the last time I looked, about 10 years ago, #1 revenue generator in the entire county of Butte would be annexed by you sneaking over Ophir, taking into the all metals or whatever it's called now. And you're going to leave the rest of a little bit of revenue generating to the county. So that seems just patently unfair. And it's still an avoidance of poor people to avoid the cemetery. So you don't have to look at Virginia Street. It may not be called officially a duck, but it is an area that was avoided even in the annexation of South Oroville. You inherited that, and so did I. So I'm here to tell you, I'm going to fight to get that included.
We understand that. Yeah.
But in a pleasant manner. Go ahead. What was your?
Well, I know enough about your maps to get lost. But those ones you say they don't want to be a part of it, are they receiving city water, city sewer? Are they part of all the city
They
utilities?
they're not receiving city water. I think they're in Cal Water territory. I think it's the edge of Cal Water.
No, it might be South Feather. It could be either.
Might be South Feather.
It could be
Yeah.
South Feather or Cal Water.
We-
And then it's LOPA, Lake Oroville Public Utility, I believe there.
Yeah, but LOPA doesn't have anything across the railroad tracks across the bridge. So everything to the right there is, or everything in that purple area is unseptic right now.
Okay. All
There
right,
is a sewer line going right up Lincoln though, from the corner there where that subdivision stopped.
okay.
They have run a line up there.
All metals is served by LOPA.
Huh?
All metals is served by LOPA. So it's there. It comes down to the
They
corner
came
there.
across the street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Any questions or comments? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And good luck.
Thank you. I'm keeping these 283, 38 letters.
Well, that's probably 1,000 short of what you would have got, but any other public comment? Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you. I'm Paula Daniluk. I'm the Director of Development Services for the county. And I am just here to support coming up with a policy on developing for the annexation of the area in the sphere for the city of Oroville. The idea of thoughtful planning process would be helpful for both agencies in how to provide services and how that annexation would happen into the future years. As you've heard earlier, it's been a while since a plan was looked at. I agree wholeheartedly with what was said. There's some really old documents that were based on things a long time ago with lots of changes since then. And so would support what was proposed in coming up with a thoughtful way of looking forward and updating the policies and the documents that are needed to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment on this matter? A lot of people here. Nobody wants to say nothing? All right, I'll close public comment. Okay. So action requested to receive and file a study and provide staff with direction relating to annexations within the Orville sphere of influence. Go ahead, Al.
Before I entertain a motion, Shannon, if I make a motion that essentially concurs with your recommended action today, will that action include some of the comments I made earlier about looking at potential incentives and so forth relative to
Definitely.
the sphere of influence
Yeah,
and
I would
the
anticipate,
prioritizing of annexation
yes,
areas?
I would anticipating meeting with the county, the city, involved special districts, doing a comprehensive look at
And
what,
would it also include, similar to Commissioner Bett's comments about finding out if there's any comparable
sure,
types of planning documents in other LAFCos throughout the state of California relative to this?
And it'll take you a while to get back to us on this. I mean, it's not going to be next month. Probably not even September, I would imagine. Just letting everyone know that.
yes, there will be
Sounds like a
time
challenge.
involved. Yes, based on conversations I've had with Mr. Brown, or with legal counsel, the language is there. It just needs to be crafted and looked at by all parties. Mhm.
So on behalf of the commission, I move that we receive and file the City of Oroville Sphere of Influence Annexation Feasibility Study, that we direct our executive officer to study, prepare for the commission's consideration an amendment, actually an update amendment to the Oroville Sphere of Influence plan that would include classified territory within the Oroville Sphere of Influence in the priority areas and other areas as described above, and establish a sequencing requirement under which the commission, I don't know if I'm going to include the word would.
Okay.
I say may not approve annexation of an other area unless the related priority area is annexed prior to or in conjunction with it, subject to defined exceptions. Also further direct the executive officer to consult with legal counsel in developing the sphere of influence plan amendment and appropriate sequel review, along with the other comments that we entertained. That's part of your direction.
Thank you.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Under discussion? Any discussion? I'd just like to say, I think it's a start. And I think I understand Orville's perspective, trying to be revenue neutral, but that has to be stated. The avoidance of your poorest inhabitants is a historical record for Orville. And as long as I'm here, I'm going to try to fix that. And I'm sorry, it's just not fair to the people that are stuck in these situations, and we need to fix it, and we need to protect ag land by stopping this expansion way beyond like the boundaries of Thermalito right now. It makes no sense to me to go there. And that's what LAFCO exists for, rational growth and to protect ag land. And those are my comments. Any other comments? Do I have to call a roll on this one?
No.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much to the City of Oroville for your presentation. Next up is public comment not on items on the agenda. We can't take actions because it's not agendized. Does anybody from the public wish to speak? Silent group. Okay. This public comment, reports and communication executive officers report.
Thank you, Chair. I'll go quickly through this. There's not a whole lot new to update. You all did receive your SB 827 fiscal and financial oversight training. I signed all of you up through the LAFCo website. Some of you responded that you may have already done it. Some of you already did it. So keep in mind that you have until December 31st to complete that training. And then I also did want to announce that the county is updating its well and septic ordinance. And this is something that they've included me on in just consulting as they update that ordinance. This will affect LAFCO by improving our understanding of the service needs across the unincorporated area. So I'll keep this commission up to date as that ordinance progresses, and then of course give LAFCO's perspective as that moves along. And then just as far as the North Chico flooding goes, just to update you, I'll be attending the Rock Creek Reclamation District meeting next week to talk about the district's involvement in potentially expanding into the Kiefer Road area to attempt to a solution to the flooding that's going on in that area. So I'll update you the next time we meet what their perspective is on that. And then again, the last update is keep in the back of your minds that the LAFCo conference is in Sacramento this year. So as those announcements come out, I'll forward them to you and you can think about your attendance at that meeting. And then I won't belabor this.
Questions or comments by the commissioners? Any public comment on that report? We'll close that. Any administration? No closed session today? We don't have an attorney here, so I could have guessed that, right? All right, y'all, we're adjourned. We'll see you here Thursday, August 6th.
Did she say when?
9 a.m. Anything else? Am I missing something? No, it's okay. I mean, I'm missing.
What's new with the
Says it.
LAFCO conference?
LAFCO, but doesn't say when.
It's October 21 through 23, but I will send those dates.
And if you've never
out.
been, I encourage you to go.
Yeah.
Meeting adjourned.